All right, what's good, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Docs Outside the Box. I am your host, Dr. Nee, joined by my lovely co-host,
Dr. Renee.
So look, let's jump into this. We got a really good interview today. We're going to be talking with someone or somebody who's doing a title or has a job description that I've never heard before.
Okay.
So when I say that someone is Senior Director of Quality, Safety, and Reporting, what's the first thing that comes to your mind?
I think that they're like the supervisor of some like manufacturing company department where people like inspect toys or some other gadget or something like that.
Inspector number 34 or something like that.
Yeah, like Inspector
They
number
put a
34.
tag in there.
Yeah. Like Inspector number 34's boss. That's what I think about.
Yeah, that's not what this job is. So oftentimes people will reach out and say, hey, we want to come on the show for X reasons, Y reasons, and what have you. And, sometimes I'll see something similar to this. And then when you go down and you look as to what the qualifications of this person is, oftentimes it's like they got like a liberal arts degree, Spanish major, and they just want to talk about something that their company does. And they don't really even know what Docs Outside the Box is about. They just know that it's kind of sort of healthcare related and so forth. But at the bottom of this, it's signed by a doctor who has an MD, right? So this is an actual physician, right?
Okay.
So the name of this physician, her name is Dr. Sam Meraj. She's Senior Director of Quality, Safety, and Reporting for a large retail company.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
You want more, right?
I'm like, you've got my interest.
Right. So when I was looking at this, I was like, and then I started thinking about it. I was looking at what she actually does. So what she actually does is she works for a large retail company, a very large retail company that has clinics in different fields. Like, so they have like an audiology clinic, they have a vision clinic, they have just regular general health clinics. And she makes sure that, if, the clinic in New Jersey is running one type of EMR, that it needs to be running the same type of EMR in Virginia or the same type of EMR in California, so that all of this information is easy to, disseminate. It's easy to check.
It's standardized.
It's standardized,
Yeah.
kind of sort of how our healthcare system should be, if you know what I mean. Right. But also at the same time, she's also making sure that clinicians who are working in these clinics, like they have PPE, they have, obviously the same EMR. Like she tries, like you just said, to make things as standardized as possible. So
Now it's making more sense, especially because, it's clinical equipment, the running of clinical, I guess, practices or, clinical offices or whatever it is.
Right.
But that makes more sense now, yeah.
So definitely outside the box, right? Something that we don't get trained as physicians in medical school and as residents to really understand. So I thought that this was really interesting. So she's here to talk about this job description, how she found this job, what her work schedule is like. But basically a little bit of some behind the scenes about Dr. Meraj. She grew up in Pakistan. She is the daughter of two physicians.
Okay.
Right. She's the daughter of two physicians. But while she was in medical school, she realized that she didn't want to go into clinical medicine. Like this that wasn't her bag. She didn't want to do that.
While she was in med school.
While she was in med school,
And
it was
she
very
didn't
clear.
quit.
She kept going.
Okay.
She kept going, and she came to the United States and kind of continued down that path. And now she's in this position. So we're going to hear a little bit about this the arc of her story, how she found this job. But also just as important, and I wasn't expecting this during our conversation, we got onto the topic of finances for women, right?
Okay.
So there's a famous rap song, Money, Power, Respect by the Lox and Lil Kim, right? Who would have thought this would have...
Money, power, respect.
Right.
Money, power, respect.
There's always a segue, right? So there's always a segue. So we're going to talk about the finances of women who are entrepreneurs, whatever, situation they're in, where they're bringing in money. And as we always know, money is a tool, but it's also a sign of respect and control.
Yeah.
So we're going to learn about that. So I think that's very interesting to hear her perspectives on
Yeah. I'm interested to hear where this goes.
No, I wholeheartedly agree. I think the audience, you guys are going to be fascinated by not only her job description, but also her thoughts on money, as well as how she handles it with her husband, how they build wealth together, as well as what she thinks about money and how she handles her money in a way that you're about to learn about. No sneak previews, guys. All right, stay tuned. All right, Dr. Sam Meraj, welcome to Docs Outside the Box. How you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you,
I'm
Dr. Nee?
I'm doing awesome. I'm doing awesome. So listen, this is the first time that we've had someone with your position here. So you are Dr. Sam Meraj. You are Senior Director of Quality, Safety, and Reporting at a very large retailer in the United States. Something that I've never heard of. So I was very interested to have you on the show to come and talk about what you do on a day by day basis. What does this mean, and what the residents, what the medical students, and even attendings, how they can learn about this position and maybe even do it themselves eventually. So, Dr. Sam, once again, welcome to the show. Tell us about this position. What does this mean?
Yeah, so, basically, I oversee for the retailer, I oversee all of the healthcare businesses. They have pharmacies, vision centers, ODs that work for them, primary care clinics, dental clinics, behavioral health, audiology, and, the list goes on and on. And basically, what
They
that
have
means on the
audiology clinics.
they do have
Really?
audiology clinics, yes.
Okay. All right. Well, we can't name who it
Because
is, but I'm kind of shocked. I'm like, I didn't know they had audiology clinics, but okay. All right.
yes, after the show, I can tell you all the locations where we have audiology clinics if you want to take a look. But, so basically, what that means is on the quality side, my team is responsible to make sure that our patients are getting the outcomes that we expect them to get. So, that is on national benchmarks and also being in a retail setting that they have the continuity of care that we would expect them to have. And as part of that, we look at our processes very closely to make sure that our clinicians have the latest tools for helping them with clinical decision making. They have the right EMRs, they have the right processes to support them, they have the right PPE, equipment. So basically, we are giving them the tools they need to do their job. We are making sure that our processes are effective and they're producing the outcomes in the patient that we expect to see. And
Is
then,
No, go ahead,
sorry, go
please. Go
ahead.
ahead, please.
And then on the safety side, we also want to make sure that it's not all about outcomes. It's also making sure that the care is being provided in the safest manner possible. Because Dr. Nee, I am very passionate about patient safety. That is my first love. And the way I see patient safety in a lot of healthcare settings, it's like it should not be, did you die? It should not be, if you didn't die, it's fine and you're safe. It is really about, did we give you the best care possible? Did you get the best outcome possible? And that is what drives me in this position, that to make sure that our clinicians are able to totally focus on the patient, not worry about anything else, and totally focus on that care that's going to give them the safest and the best care possible.
So is this like a Monday through Friday type position, or is there call hours? Like, talk to us about like your work schedule. How does that play out?
So I cannot say that it's a Monday to Friday kind of position. I will tell you that yes, we focus a lot on work life balance. But given the scale of the business and the size of responsibility that I have, I have to make myself available. So, sometimes there are, especially during the COVID, because I was one of the people in the company who was focusing a lot on COVID response. So, I had to make sure that if I'm needed in the evening, I'm available. If I am needed on the weekends, like I have had meetings on Sundays and Saturdays. However, the company in itself, we have a lot of focus on work-life balance, and they try to make it Monday to Friday, 7:30 to 5:30. But sometimes I am always ready to step outside of those hours and help as needed.
So what about clinical work? Is there anything in this position that is anywhere close to what, we as professionals would deem as clinical work? Do you have to go in and see patients? Do you have to do any of that type of stuff?
No, not really. The closest that we come to clinical work is maybe looking at a chart and having a discussion with the clinician who provided care on something, or, you know, beyond that, it is not a very clinical position in nature. It is more of a audit type function, more of understanding what good care looks like. What are the accreditation standards? What are the standards set by payers? What are the expectations set by HEDIS? the STAR measures, MIPS measures from CMS. So, understanding all those requirements and then also understanding on the backside how the system works. So, how does the EMR work? What does what is the kind of reporting that we need to generate and how? And, being aware of the technical aspects of it. And for people who are interested in learning about it, I'm always more than happy to talk about it. There are specific certifications as well that you can do in patient safety and healthcare quality, such as CPHQ or CPBS, which are more focused on what does that mean? What does the process improvement mean? What does the reporting mean? How do you work with systems? And how do you improve patient safety and quality from that aspect?
Now, how long have you been in this position, or at least, well, that's the first one. How long have you been in this position specifically?
In this position specifically, I have been about 2 years,
Okay.
and for the last 18 months. So before, I have been here about 2 years, but I didn't have pharmacy. About 18 months back, pharmacy was added to my portfolio.
Okay. And then just in general, how long have you been working in quality improvement, safety, reporting, like this type of position? I know you've been at this position specifically for 2 years, but just in general, how long have you been working in this role?
In the quality department, I have been here for like about since I would say November 2019. So,
Oh, about
not,
2 years.
yeah,
Okay.
about 2 years. But before that, I was in the compliance department. And over there, I also had significant responsibility towards patient safety for about 5 years.
So let's talk about the arc of your career, because I think it's really important to understand like where you started and then where you are right now. So you went to medical school in Pakistan, you came to the United States, and then you decided not to go into clinical medicine. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about the mental mathematics that you made and maybe some even emotional decisions that you had to make. So after graduating from medical school, talk to us about the decision not to go into clinical medicine.
Dr. Neem, both my parents are physicians, and I
Uh-oh, there's
joke
pressure
about it.
there. Okay.
Exactly. So, I joke about it that I was sort of burnt out by the time I graduated out of medical school.
Really?
Uh, but yeah, but the
Okay.
but the reality is that think about in the first 23 years of my life, we never went on a vacation because my mom used to practice heavily in the OBGYN space. And, she was always in a small practice in a small town where she always had a patient who can go into labor at any minute. And she obviously cannot leave and go on a vacation. So that kind of thing, I just wanted a better work-life balance. And I love being in healthcare. I love helping patients. But my journey was that after I graduated and I
Well, hold on.
came to this country,
Before we get
yeah,
to that point, what did your father? What was his specialty?
he worked in psychiatry.
He's psychiatric. So you said
Yeah.
over from birth to 23, you and your entire family have never been on a vacation. They've always been constantly working.
Yes.
And now, what about the need or the want to be a physician? Did that come from you internally, or did that come from your family?
So I wanted to be a physician.
Okay.
Ever since I went to kindergarten, I wanted to be a physician. I loved what my parents did. I was their medical assistant since I was 16 years old,
Oh man.
because they had a they had a practice right like on the ground floor of our house. So it was always like checking in the patient. I was an expert on doing the initial physical exam, taking the history. I used to do all that work for them. But
Sounds like they should have put you on a payroll, right?
well, the country where I come from, they didn't unfortunately make enough money to do
Mm-hmm.
that.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing was that I loved all of that part. What I did not love was the lack of work-life balance. So I'd really, and also I'm very like in some ways more inclined towards the business world. So the funny thing is when I got accepted in medical school, I also got accepted in one of the best business schools in my country. And my dad was like, look, there are only two type of people in this world. There are physicians and there are non-physicians. So if you don't become a physician, I don't care what else you are going to do.
Whoa, dang. He threw the gauntlet down.
Yeah. So, it was like, okay, so I'm going to go to medical school. I'm going to become a physician.
Right,
Uh,
right.
and when I was graduating out, I was like, okay, but I really don't want to do clinical medicine. I already know my heart is not into it.
So you
I
knew
came
this
to this.
already in med school, like you don't want to do clinical
Yes,
medicine. Got you.
yes.
Okay.
I was, I think, in fourth year when I used to openly tell my friends that I don't want to do clinical medicine.
What'd your
Um,
friends say?
my friends would be like, they most of them would not even understand, and they would be
Right.
like, so are you going to quit medical school? No, I'm not going to quit medical school, but I will figure out what else is out there, what I can do, probably with the skill set that I have. um, and after I came to this country, 1 year in medical research, because initially I thought that research might be that alternate career that I want to pursue. I was with MedStar Health in Baltimore, and I was there for about a year. And then quickly I learned that even that was.
Quick question before you jump into that, because there's people
Mhm.
who are IMGs who want to know how you did that. So did you have to get a visa to do that?
I did have to get a visa
Do
to
you
do
remember
that.
what category you had when you were
That was H-1B at that time.
H-1B? Okay, so you had an H-1B visa that allowed you to do research. So you were in Washington, D.C.
I was in Baltimore.
Baltimore, sorry, you were in Baltimore. Okay, so you're doing research and then QU. I cut you off, so go jump right into it.
No, no problem at all. So I was doing clinical research. I was there as a clinical research associate for about a year. And during that year, I was also working on my USMLEs, because as soon as I came here and as soon as I started working in a hospital environment, everybody was like, "This is the route to go. Like, you have to do your
Yeah, it's the default.
USMLEs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, then you have to do the residency, and you have to do this, and you have to do this." And I'm like, finally, I did my ECFMG. By that time, I got married. And then I was like, but why do I have to do this? Like, why is it that I have to do this and there is no alternative? Started some observerships in Chicago. And one day I came back home very late. And I told my husband that I'm going to be unhappy if I'm going to do this. I never wanted to do it. I'm going to be really unhappy. And he said, "That's fine. What do you want to do?" And I
Yeah,
said that
Dr.
I'm going to
Mirage, what do you want
explore.
to do at that point?
Yeah. So the reason I went into public health, and there was a whole world of possibilities. When I started exploring, I could have done an MBA, I could have done an MHA, I could have done an MPH. There were all these possibilities, and what do I want to do?
Mm-hmm.
The reason why I chose to go into public health, and I think that is also the reason why I want to stay in quality and patient safety, is because when I was exploring all this, somebody explained this story to me, that think about a river. And if there are bodies, dead bodies, or injured people coming down the river, the doctors are going to be towards the end of the river, pulling people out, trying to save them.
Mm-hmm.
Public health folks are going to be at the top of the river, trying to figure out why they're falling in the first place,
Mm-hmm. So
and trying to prevent that.
you were very interested in prevention.
I was very interested in prevention, and
I
I was
really like
very
that
interested.
analogy. It's morbid, but it makes sense though.
Yeah, it does. And after all these years, I graduated out of medical school, out of public health school back in 2012. And in the last 9 years, I have learned that that is true. And we have seen that in COVID-19. We have seen that our colleagues on the clinical side, they're on the bedside, helping the patient every single day, versus public health is really trying to work on prevention. They are really trying to advocate for those guidelines that are going to prevent it from happening in the first place.
So,
Um,
so I got a question for you. So, for
mhm.
let's say the med student that's listening to the show, or even the medical resident, or even the attending who is just like, that sounds like something I want to do. right? Particularly your position currently right now. What are the steps that you think someone should do? Because I know you mentioned there's some certifications, and I'll make sure I put those certifications in the show notes. But what are those steps that you think a person should take if they want to end up going along the same path as you? Is it do they definitely have to get an MPH? Talk to that person.
So I highly recommend getting that additional training because, as doctors, we often think that, public health is kind of in our fabric, and we always think that we know so much about it, but it is technically a very specialized field, and there are technical things that you need to know about it. And most importantly, Dr. Nee, in my mind, it is about your brand and about your authenticity. So when you have those credentials, when you have that extra training, you are always perceived as, you have that authenticity to your personal brand, where people have a different kind of ear for you, where you have a different kind of authority when you're giving out that message. And I think that in the field of public health, it is a growing field. It is a beautiful field. Same thing for quality and patient safety. But having that authenticity and having that brand is very important.
Okay.
So I highly recommend that they get their training, they start establishing a brand, and actively work on that.
Okay. And now, in terms of this type of job, is this the type of job that you would find like in LinkedIn? This is a type of job that do you find like in the Indeeds, Monster.com? I don't even know if Monster.com still exists, but is this where you would find this type of position, or is this a I know someone who knows someone who knows someone type of relationship?
Though you can certainly find it in LinkedIn. You can certainly find it in different job engines. My first job at Walmart, I found it, I think it was Indeed or Simply Hired, one of those two, because LinkedIn back at that time in 2013 was not as active as it is today. But I can tell you, positions on my team, whenever we have them open, they're always posted on LinkedIn and public forums. We hire a lot of people externally and internally. Now, the thing about knowing someone who knows someone who knows someone, I mean, networking always helps. And I am never going to underestimate the power of networking, because if you are a good fit, when you apply for a position, there might be 5 good fits over there. And if there is someone who can vouch for your work ethic and who can say, I know this person, I've worked with them, I know how they operate, they're really detail oriented, they will really be a good fit for the environment, for the team, for the culture of the company, then, as a hiring manager, I would always be intrigued to talk to that person. I was, among the 300 resumes. That will make someone stand out to me, that if someone else that I know and I trust can vouch to their work ethic.
Okay. All right. Well, look, let's pivot for a little bit. Let's have some fun. Let's have a little bit of controversy. Let me poke and prod you. So one of the things that you're super proud of is some of the financial money decisions that you make in your relationship. Right. And I think that a lot of times we don't talk about it, at least from a woman's perspective, particularly women who are professionals perspective. So I know that you pride yourself in your family that you contribute 50% of the expenses, but you control the rest of your money, or controlling your money is very important. And you want other women to do the same thing. So let's talk about why you believe that. Let's talk about your background, how you were raised, why you believe that. And then let's kind of go into it from there.
Yeah. My mom always made more money than my dad.
Really?
And she did.
So even in Pakistan, OBs get paid more than psychiatrists. Okay, got it.
Yeah. So, but she never controlled a single penny. And
was that because was that due to her own volition, or just the way how social rules are, or just in that family in particular? Talk to us about that also.
Just the way I think the society expected it to be.
Okay.
At that time, my mom, when she got accepted into medical school, there were very, very few women who got accepted into medical school at that time. And I think part of the reason was that her passion and desire to be a doctor was really from the place of trying to help the patient. It was not from the place of, trying to make a lot of money. So her focus initially was more like I want to work, I want to help the patient, and it was not so much on how much money am I making. But as a now, my mother and father, they had a good relationship and it worked out for them. But what I have seen over and over again in my country and even in this country is that women, when they are not independent or they don't have control on their own money or their own financials, it is so much harder for them to get out of a bad situation. And, having witnessed that, I was always from the very beginning, having witnessed my mother's life, even with a good relationship, where she was not able to control it, she was not able to make basic decisions. I will tell you this. One time as a child, she wanted to buy me a dress, and she did not have any money. She never used to carry any money. She asked my dad to hand her over some money so that she can buy me that dress. And my dad turned around and yelled at her in like, middle of the street, like, cannot do that right now. I'm not going to give this money, and left. And that had such an imprint on me as to, this is her money. Why can she not use that money to buy whatever she wants? And from that point on, I was always determined that no matter what, that was actually one of the things. My husband and I don't have a prenuptial in place, which now, if I have to go back and get married again, I will definitely do a prenuptial.
Okay. So there's no prenuptial agreement, but if you would, okay.
We don't have a prenuptial. However, I made certain things very clear, and he did too. And this was one of those things that we will contribute towards the household equally, but we will not try to control each other's money. And I think that can get tricky because, sometimes there are things that you need to mutually spend on. And the way we think about it.
Yeah. So the way I get confused about it is like with retirement. So like I said, this is non-judgmental. I'm very interested in how married couples, when they have semi-separate accounts, like how do you like save for like retirement, or how do you save for like future joint expenses like a house and stuff like that? Or like if someone reaches like their number quicker than the other, like let's say you reach your number in 5 years and he's still got another 5 years to go before he retires, are you like, deuces, I'm out, catch me at the yacht? You know what I'm saying? Like how does that work? Like I'm very interested. Tell me about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I can give you an example of there was a little bit of a time when my husband did not have a job. There was a large corporate layoff and he got laid off. So he was not making any money. Hey, I did not hold him accountable to the 50% of expenses that he has to pay during that time. And, it's just I'm married to him and I will pick the tab where I have to pick the tab. But normally outside of that, how it works is we keep our accounts separate, but we do have a joint strategy. So, we do strategically think about retirement. And we think about how much money we are each putting in our 401ks, we are each putting in the market. Now, there are certain things that we disagree on. He's like, oh, I'm going to pull my money out of the market, or I'm going to and I'm like, okay, I'm going to stay the course.
Get that compounding interest. Yeah.
Yeah. You want to try to time the market, good luck to you.
Gotcha.
I'm not going to do that. So, there are certain things that we can disagree on, and, we can control our money in that way, that he's not going to ask me to pull my money out of the market if, I don't want to do that.
Gotcha.
And vice versa.
So you both so you guys are both aware of how much you guys are putting together. So you guys are jointly building for retirement, so to speak.
Yes.
Gotcha.
We are jointly building for retirement. We want to have, because, hey, what fun is retirement if I can't travel with him?
I don't know, Dr. Meraj. I mean, once you be with someone for like 20, 30 years, you might want to be like, yo, I need like a 5-year break from you. Don't tell my wife. I'm teasing.
I mean, there is always that, but
But I get it. What's the fun if you can't retire with, your partner? I get it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, the way I think about it is that the strategy is the same, but the P&L can be a little bit different, profit and loss statement. And there are certain things that, we do have certain rules. So one good practice that we have gotten into, and that helps a lot, is that once a month we have a sort of quote unquote a business meeting.
Yes, I love it.
And
Yeah.
the thing is that, because before we used to have that, I used to feel like we are talking about money all the time. Like, all the time, every time we are talking, we are like, did you pay this bill, and did you do this, and did you take care of that? Because our accounts are separate, and we don't have visibility to each other's account, and whether that is done or not done. And to overcome that, what we have started doing, once a month in the beginning, we have one Saturday where we would sit down and we would only talk money. Are the credit card bills paid? Is this paid? What are we doing with this? Are we buying this, air fryer or whatever? Um, and once we are done with that business meeting, then we usually don't even need to talk about anything else. I absolutely don't feel like all our conversations are revolving around money, money, money.
And you guys are
And
happy, right?
yeah,
There it
yeah.
is. So that's the most important thing. So folks who are listening right now, to the women that are listening right now, like, there's multiple ways that you can skin a cat in a relationship with money. Me and Renee, we do where we have all of our money together. But if I want to buy some Jordans, I could buy some Jordans, right? If she wants to buy, red bottoms, she can buy red bottoms. We don't do it that much, but we kind of combine all of our money, because in the beginning, when we wanted to pay off our debt, we felt that if we combined our income, it'd be a lot better. Dr. Meraj, she does things a little bit differently, where they use the money to pay for the expenses, and then they do also money together for retirement. But it's very important to her, and the husband recognizes that, and he respects that she controls her own money. So it's all about respect. It's all about, there's multiple ways you can skin a cat. Dr. Meraj, I really appreciate you coming on Docs Outside the Box and teaching us about a little bit about your personal life and how you handle finances, but also from a 30,000 foot view, what exactly does a senior director of quality, safety, and reporting do at a very large retailer? I'm going to put down all the certifications that you mentioned in the show notes, as well as your LinkedIn profile. Once again, Dr. Meraj, thanks for coming on Docs Outside the Box.
Thanks for having me. I had a lot of fun. Thank you.
And there it is. That's the interview with Dr. Sam Meraj. What do you think?
Wow. So I'm not even tripping on, she went into a non-traditional medical career. I'm more tripping on her experience as a child, witnessing her mother.
You were going to say that. I knew you were going to say that.
Witnessing her mother, like, literally just, I don't know, just not have control over her own money. Pretty much not have control over her own life, right?
And her mother makes more than her husband at the time.
Right. And, money, it's a tool, right? It's a resource. If you take that away, you take a lot away from a person.
Money, power, respect is the key to life.
Yeah.
Money, power, respect. Yeah, it's true. Like, so I agree with what you're saying. I think that we as a society have a long way to go with women, with money, power, and control, right? And I think that in a spousal relationship, there's different ways that can play out. Right. And the reason in the beginning I mentioned Farnoosh Torabi is she makes more than her husband, and she talks about it, right, as being the breadwinner.
Right.
And in a similar situation, I don't know if she makes more, if Dr. Meraj makes more than her husband.
Right.
But similar to what Farnoosh says, it's really important for her to have her own money so that she can express and do the things that she may want to do, i.e., purchasing power, i.e., whatever it may be, whatever she may want to do. So I think that that's really important. Now, for us, the thing that I took away from that is the savings as well as the building a life together part, right? Like, because I'm always fascinated as to how people have separate bank accounts or separate finances.
Yeah.
But then how do you still find the priority to build wealth together as well as retire together? And then my second takeaway is just healthcare is huge. It's a huge complex. And we, in some form or fashion, can fit in anywhere, right? Just because they present to us that you have to, once you finish medical school, have to practice clinically.
Right.
Like, that may not work for a small amount of people, but now we're realizing actually that small amount of people is actually a moderate amount of people, or actually a large amount of people.
Yeah.
So, I think that the big takeaway is just understanding that it's important to explore, it's important to network, it's important to listen to these type of podcasts so that we can all be exposed to this. Because like I said in the beginning, I never knew anything about this type of position prior to her contacting me.
Yeah, I think, definitely talking about going from residency or even going from medical school and then going straight to residency and then practicing clinically as an attending. I mean, that really is just kind of the plan for most people, right? Because that's what you're presented, just like you were saying with the buffet and the plate, right? You're presented with that, so you take that. But I'll tell you that recently I had a student who was looking at potentially not matching. And one of the things that I said to her was, well, there are other types of residency programs. And there are residency programs that actually are like administrative residency programs. Now, I'm not very, very familiar with it, but just her situation kind of pushed me to basically think outside the box for her and see whether or not this might be an option. She's a student who I think, definitely has a lot of leadership qualities and has a bright future ahead of her. But that is to also say for anyone who is out there who's thinking that traditional medicine is not for them, that sometimes you can find a path.
I think there's time now. I think there's time for medical schools now to start giving different options. You can have literally like a 6-week course or a 3-week course,
right,
where you're just introducing the students to various aspects of medicine. And medicine doesn't necessarily have to be
clinical.
Right. It doesn't have to be necessarily patient to physician. It can be in a whole host of opportunities.
Yeah.
And I think that more medical school, I actually think that is one of the bigger things that is facing healthcare and medicine, and medical schools do a poor job.
It's a huge pitfall.
So, yeah.
I think it's a huge pitfall. And, if we're looking as a profession to get any better, to get any more leverage, I think medical schools and residency programs are going to have to just get those opportunities in front of us. Or we as a community are going to have to find those opportunities ourselves.
What do y'all think? Listen, text us at 1-833-230-2860. I'm telling you, when you text us, that goes straight to my phone. I'm telling you right now, my wife is like, who's texting you? I'm telling you, it's the fans. Right up in my DMs. So when you text us, we get those texts directly. She wasn't expecting that. It comes directly to us. So let us know what you think about this concept, all right? So we got to end this. We got to be out. So listen, we catch you guys on the next episode. Peace.